We want to offer an opportunity for children to participate and to experience real, engaging participation where their voice is genuinely heard. If we ask people, and that includes children, what they think about how things should be, we're more likely to get it right for more people. If we ask them what they thought about the changes that have happened and the way they happened, we are more likely to get it right next time. We also need to get the preparation work done right. And here are a few pointers about making the process useful and worthwhile. Give information. Before you start a consultation, you should provide your group with information for the following reason. It's very hard to comment on something that you know nothing about. Giving some simple background information, including the reason why you're asking for their views, means that you're more likely to get useful answers. You also need to tell them what will happen with any of the information you gather. Remind the group that you want to hear from them. It may be that you want to consult very informally on a regular basis rather than running a specific session. It's still important to remind them that you want to hear what they think about things, and if anything has changed because of what they or their peers have suggested. Think carefully about your questions. What exactly do you need or want to find out? Don't be afraid to ask the same question in different ways in order to get more depth of understanding or to check if the responses are consistent. Gather your information through observation. Sometimes information you need will arrive very informally, observing which toys do or don't get used, where the hangout spots are, noticing the energy levels in the room. What you want to find out should be relevant to the children. If it's not, they won't be interested, and the information you get will most likely be useless. Past experiences and future dreams are one thing. Asking them about what the men's group should have at their annual dinner is another. Use warm-ups. Use activities initially will get everybody's brain oiled and introduce the topics that you'd like to ask them about. For example, by doing picture bingo. You can still start to collect information at this stage, but the main point is they're not starting from scratch once you get into the meatier activities. Remember, no one has to participate. Respect that fact. As with participation in general, some children may not want to join in. It should be their choice whether they want to have their voices heard. And using playful methods may encourage them to share their thoughts. But for some, a suggestion box or being able to approach you quietly may work better. It's your job to make those options available. Avoid false promises or assumptions. Be clear from the start that consultation doesn't mean that everybody will get exactly what they do or don't want. For one thing, there have to be realistic parameters. If you have a small pot of funding and a very small space to work in, it's unlikely that to build a world's biggest roller coaster is going to happen. And it's fairly unlikely too that all the children in your group will want the same thing. And that's without considering anybody else that the results might affect. Members of the congregation for a start. Don't be afraid to say to the children that they won't always get what they've asked for, but make sure that you explain why the answer would be no. Discussing these things in a group, but also reminding them that everyone's views will be carefully considered and that they may well be able to take part in the final say and even in the actual changes. But consider why a child may ask for a roller coaster. It may be that they're actually saying they want more fun or play in that space. All ideas are sacred. Don't dismiss ideas just because they seem too unlikely or ridiculous at first glance. They may suddenly seem possible when you look more closely, or at least They may be a good starting point for something that is slightly reined in. A consultation that was carried out in the past suggested that the best way to combat bullying or unwanted playground behaviour was to arm lunchtime supervisors on the roof of the school overlooking the yard. This, of course, was entirely unrealistic, but what did come out of it was an understanding of how the lunchtime staff in the school were viewed, and that it was useful to train lunchtime supervisors in subjects like playground games and mediation skills so that they could enhance the respect that they already had. And lastly, check that you understand. Be aware of your own agendas and jumping to conclusions early on. Check that you understand exactly what it is that the children are suggesting, requesting, or feeding back. So by offering choice and variety to children in all aspects of participation consultation, providing a variety of ways for them to be able to truly express their views, encouraging everybody to make any activity accessible to the whole group, listening to the voice of the newborn and the non-verbal children through body language and choice. You may not be able to understand me, but talk about what I want, I need. I need you to speak to others that care for me and talk about me. Get to know who I am. Drawing things that they like to play with. Photograph the places that they like to play in, or the things that they like to play with. Observe their play both indoors and outdoors over 5 minutes. All of these can create a more detailed view of the child in their own environment. We can use a variety of techniques and tools. Asking the children to show you around their space using photos, noting what the weather is too. Seeing things through their eyes and what they think about their space. When they take pictures of carpeted spaces, and they maybe call it the scratchy carpet, think about what it's like for that child to sit for a time on a scratchy carpet. As adults, we may never have thought about it. They may take pictures of names or things to do with them, pegs in the nursery, for example. This has a lot to do with a child's sense of belonging in that place and their well-being generally. Revisiting the exercise with the children and by looking over the photographs over a period of time helps you to slow down the decision making, but means that we get it right for the children. Depending on your research question, you may want to do block play or other forms of play with children. Remember, it's important to keep in mind what we are wanting from this exercise. What is your role as an adult? Are the children sharing their experiences with you? And what are you going to do with that information? It may be that you don't have access to children to fully consult with them. And there are ways which this can be done through experimental approaches to bring in a new perspective. Considering the child at the centre of everything that we do. What does this child feel and think about this? Recognising that this can be a bit flawed, as we can attribute thoughts or feelings to particularly a baby or a non-verbal child, thoughts and feelings that they have not articulated. Pen portraits can put a child in the centre of all decisions we make, enabling adults to continually remember the child in the centre of any decisions. This isn't participation, but it does keep the focus on the child when we are making decisions. Considering a question which we would like an answer to, like, what makes me happy? When do I feel loved? Or do I feel included in worship? When considering any question, think of a child that you know today. It may be a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, a child who lives next to you, a child who goes to your church. Then answer the question as if it was them, in 1 or 2 words. This brings the child into a room and helps us to think from their point of view. Reviewing this information and reflecting on it can inform our decision making. We can all make excuses why we don't listen to the voices of the children, and it's useful to have considered those excuses and have some responses to them. Here is a list of a few that we've heard and a few suggested responses. Under 11s are too immature. It's our job to make it appropriate. They don't know what they want. We can show them ideas and examples to get them started. They are unrealistic. We can explain realistic parameters, and even unrealistic ideas can be adapted to fit reality. But it's good to have someone think outside our normal boundaries. They don't want to. They don't have to. But they should be offered a chance to know what it really involves. They're not interested and they'll find it boring. We can make it relevant and consequently interesting. They just need to play and develop naturally, free from responsibility. We will not impose on their time too much, and we will respect the other things that they want in their lives. They don't understand. We can explain, illustrate, and check their understanding. They can't express themselves and do not have a grasp of the language or the concepts. We can use many ways for children to express themselves. They don't have the attention span. Well, we can keep it snappy. They are not competent. We can train and support them. They're easily led by their peers. We can give them clear information about the importance of their views and build their self-esteem so that they can realise how important their views can be. They will just try and please adults. We will give them clear information about not having to please adults. They can't concentrate. We will use short and involving methods. Their thinking is too polarised, too black and white. It is okay to give simple responses. By the time anything happens, they'll have moved on. We will think of how to keep them in touch with the process as well as the final result. As we develop the participation experience of children and young people, it is worth remembering that even the smallest child has rights and a voice. We all have a part to play in supporting children's rights. The smallest change can make a big difference. What will you take away from the process of consultation and participation? There are a variety of resources which already can be used to share information and hear the voice of our children and young people. Some resources like Go with Greta, the Eco Church Questionnaire, Joint Public Issues Team, and how they may be used are endless. There are also a variety of tools and techniques which can be used, simple, easy activities to generate ideas, and some can be found in the Love Is resource book. You can also contact your Synod Children and Youth Development Officers or their equivalents and have access to their resources and their support and help. And there is also the Children and Youth Office who can help you and support you too.